Oh yeah, yeah, of course. Like, I mean, in cold outreach, it's kind of like, yeah, how can I break through the noise? And it's like in my day to day life, it's not like I'm introducing myself as like, hey, I'm Ryan. I'm a 9-time Olympic medalist. Like that's not how I operate. But
well, I think Dan and I are in the same camp. We would be fitting it into subject lines, walking around conferences with the gold medals on our neck, trying.
Would you really, Rooney?
Today on Deal Sorcery, we're joined by Ryan Murphy.
Ryan Murphy! Murphy to take gold! Murphy! 3 straight wins! Murphy! Stretching to the wall for Olympic gold, gets it!
The first American backstroker to swim both the 100 and the 200 backs in 3 straight Olympics. That is how good Ryan Murphy has been.
9-time Olympic medalist, 5 golds, and now a deal sourcing professional at Norwest Venture Partners. Ryan's competed at the highest level under intense pressure, and today he's taking on a different challenge, learning the craft of deal sourcing. We'll talk about his transition into investing, the patterns he's starting to see in the market, and how his background in professional sports, along with his experience as a business owner, shapes the way he approaches the job. Ryan, thanks for joining us.
Great to see you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we're going to get into a lot of different topics today, but maybe we could start with the beginning. Can you take us through like the key chapters of Ryan Murphy? Where and when did swimming start for you? And were there any particular moments where it got serious and clear that this is something you were going to pursue at a high level?
Yeah. I mean, we could be here a while, but basically I'm the youngest of 3. And so right after I was born in Chicago. Literally 5 months later, we moved down to Jacksonville, Florida. So it was a place where my parents didn't know anyone. We moved because of my dad's work. And so pretty much immediately as we got there, our way to meet people in the neighborhood, meet people in the area was just to go to the community pool. As long as I remember, we were at the community pool most days of the summer. I was the little kid that was kind of running around with floaties on and it kind of just chomping at the bit until I was able to swim on my own. Eventually, as I turned 4, started swimming in the summer league. As I got to age 7, started swimming year round. And really at like all of these checkpoints was doing it with my older brother and sister. That's a theme for me. I've always kind of been chasing them. I think that's kind of where the competitiveness started. I always wanted to play up and be on my brother's teams, whether it was swimming, soccer, baseball, flag football, all of them. I was always very competitive and trying to play up. But it kind of became clear by the time I was 12 that swimming was kind of where the talent was. It was also a sport I could tell I was really starting to care about. I would get super nervous before every race, and that's kind of how I knew that I cared. So gave up the other sports at age 12. And I'd say it really kind of took another step forward at the age of 16. So that age lined up with leading into the 2012 Olympic trials. Going into that year, I sat down with my coach at the time, and he was like, look, like, I want you to approach this year like you have a chance to make the Olympic team. And I was sitting at the other end, other end of the table, and I'm kind of thinking to myself, like, yeah, I don't really think I have a chance to make the Olympic team. I was always kind of like struggled with confidence at that age. And so he was like, yeah, look, like I didn't expect you to say like, yeah, I'm ready to make the team. He was like, I expected you to say, yeah, I'm not quite there yet. And he was like, but what I want from you is just to commit to the process. Like these are the things that we're going to do in this year that are going to help you be in a position to compete for an Olympic spot. And I was like, okay, great. Yeah, I'm going to lean in on this and I'm committed to the plan. And so that's a time where it started to get more intense. That year ended up going really well. I got 4th in the 200 back at Olympic trials. Top 2 ended up making the team. I got 6th in the 100 back. And, so getting in kind of what I was calling it at the time, the big boy heat, that was a big confidence boost. And ultimately, I think that kind of propelled the career. Ultimately went to Cal and ended up having some Olympic success from there.
It's truly awesome, man. I mean, for people who don't know swimming, they might not know this, but like you're actually like a living legend in the sport, right? Like widely considered, if I'm not mistaken, like widely considered the best pure backstroker that like has come out of America ever, right? And like the torchbearer for backstroke after Ryan Lochte. I mean, you held the world record for the 100-meter in backstroke for 6 years, right?
Yep.
And
yep.
and to me, like what's probably craziest about all of it is most athletes kind of build over successive Olympics, right? Whereas it kind of felt like you basically showed up on the scene at 21 in Rio and you're like, this is my event, man. Gold, gold, gold. Like, I don't know, outside in, like probably one of the most truly inspiring stories of, again, outside in discipline, right? Leading to kind of low key dominance. And so I don't know. I was curious to like double click into that world for a second more, because you are such a legend in this sport now and team captain in Paris. Like, what's it like to step out onto that stage?
Yeah. I mean, I think about the process first and foremost. I think that's kind of what leads to the success. That's really what you can control. And so I think from a young age, I've always been very process oriented. I think a lot of that comes from my mom's side of the family. So my mom's a college math professor. My grandpa writes math textbooks for a living. And so it's kind of like, there is a step-by-step process to these things. And that's very much how my mind works. As you get to an Olympic year, motivation is no problem at all. Like, you are absolutely chomping at the bit. Like, I'm waking up and I'm like excited to go to practice at 5:45 and it's raining. Like, it doesn't matter. I'm ready to go because that's going to help me accomplish the goals. In those years, you almost have to hold yourself back and figure out ways to distract yourself so that you don't end up overtraining or overthinking about the potential result. And so, I think in that 2015, 2016 year, I was really lucky to have a group of people in my training group that had already won at the Olympics. And so I was able to kind of look at some of the things that they were doing on a day-to-day basis that I thought made them unique, made them special, and kind of take that in as things that I can replicate. And so you're kind of like going down the line. Like, Natalie Coughlin was training in our group. I think she's the second most decorated female swimmer of all time after Katie Ledecky. And so what she was really good at was just lifestyle of success. Like, she was, I think she has like a cookbook that she wrote. So she was like really dialed in on the nutrition. She was bringing a vegetable smoothie to practice every day. She was doing Pilates on her own, yoga, seeing a physical therapist, masseuse, all of it. So she was just really dialed in on all of the things that, are kind of loosely correlated to performance. Like, those little things start to add up. So from her, it was like, okay, lifestyle success. From Tony Irvin, he has a crazy story. So he won at the Olympics in 2000. I ended up winning again in 2016. He's a guy who, when it was showtime, he was ready to go and like put his best performances forward on the biggest stage. And so from him, it's kind of like, look, like the day-to-day like matters. Sure. But like, you win the medal on the day of the Olympics. So managing pressure and making sure you're in a spot to perform at a high level in those moments is really key. And then from Nathan Adrian, I think I'm probably most similar to Nathan. Nathan was so consistent every single day. Like, you had no idea like what was going on, in his life. It didn't matter. Like, he showed up with a consistent approach every single day, worked super hard. I mean, that consistency of personality, that consistency of work ethic is, something that I really look up to. And so you kind of taking all that, getting into the Olympics. The Olympics is really pressure management. Like, I felt like I was in a really good spot physically from all the things that we were doing. But once you're there, like, things can completely unravel as you are thinking about the performance. And so, like, some of the things that I was doing to try to combat that is like, I know from other times that I've been nervous, like, my brain speeds up as I start to feel the intensity, feel the adrenaline. And so the way that I combated that is I would write down my schedule in 15-minute increments. And then that's just one less thing I have to think about. I just have to follow the schedule and I'm good. I was downloading, and I'm now like showing my age, but like, I was downloading shows onto my computer because like, you're going to Rio. Like, you have no idea what the Wi-Fi situation is going to be. And so, you're downloading shows, and so healthy distractions throughout the day. Once I kind of get behind the blocks, I know that no matter how nervous I am, I could always remember three things. And so it's very similar to like cramming for a test. Like you kind of have these three things you look at right before you take a test. And it's like, those are the three things that I would just write down on the page right when I got the test. It's very similar in swimming of like, these are the three cues of things that maybe I'm not naturally doing that well, that I just need to put a little bit of extra focus in as I'm in the race. And so those are very tangible things that I felt like translated to each successive Olympics. But yeah, I mean, it's awesome to go to the big stage and actually perform well. So it's something I'm very proud of.
Yeah, congrats, man. And it sounds like really like for you is just like being married to the process, right? And being able to like kind of control your mind by like dialing in like, okay, this is the process. We're going to follow this process. And that just kind of allows you not to spin into spin cycles, right?
Oh, totally. I mean, you have to be dynamic too. Like the Olympics is not the ideal performance setting. It never is. Like it's a logistical nightmare to run an Olympics. And so like, obviously like your things aren't going to be dialed in perfectly. You have to be ready to deal with that. You're not deciding what food you eat. You're not deciding what time the buses leave. And you're not deciding your roommates or what the living conditions are. So it's just kind of like, you guys have to like go with the flow as well. Just recognize that like everyone's in the same situation and that you don't need to be perfect to perform well.
It was interesting to learn a bit about that as I was preparing for this episode. I think there was one of your Olympics was the temperature of the pool was an issue for some people, right? One of the elements that you can't control, can't prepare for. If we press you to think of a moment, I think a lot of people who like know Ryan Murphy, maybe who aren't like, dedicated swimming fans might think of the Rio relay, like Phelps' last gold medal, right? If I'm remembering that correctly, and you led the way for that group. Is there a moment that you think back on when you think of your three Olympics that was like the highlight?
There's so many different ones. I mean, the Phelps one is a highlight. I mean, it was this last race. That's also the race where I set the world record. Set the world record on the leadoff leg, and so that one was sweet for multiple reasons. I mean, I'd say for a different reason. I think the mixed medley relay in Paris was a pretty special one, and so those Olympics were definitely not perfect for me. Like essentially, I went through the 100 back. Got bronze there. I felt like I could have been better in that race. The 200 back, basically in swimming, you have to get top 16 to make semis, and then you have to get top 8 in semis to make the final. And so my approach to prelims, semis, finals is to always try to conserve as much energy as possible. And so I kind of took that strategy again. It backfired in this case. And so I ended up getting 10th in semis of the 200 back. I finished the year second in the world in that event. And so it was an event that I was like, I felt like I was in a really good spot to medal. And so obviously like a super like devastating and crushing result, but I still had 2 more races to go. And so I really had to like go pretty far like internally and just like convince myself and tell myself over and over. It's like, yeah, look, like that result happened because of a strategy error, not because of like my ability. And ultimately try to turn it into a positive. It's like, okay, the next race is the mixed medley relay. Now I'm going to have an extra day off and that'll be good. And so we get to the mixed medley relay and basically we knew the race was going to be between us and China. And so we ultimately had the same strategy. In a mixed medley relay, you have 2 men, two women, and you kind of put us any order. The U.S., we led off with 2 men, and then we're going 2 women. China did the exact same. It almost felt like a swim off the whole way. Like we were just going neck and neck. I ended up going the backstroke leg. I think I was 0.3 of a second faster than I was in the individual race. And so started off really well in the breaststroker. Nick Fink did his job. Like that was his best swim of the meet. Gretchen Walsh on fly also had a great split, and Tori Huss brought it home. We ended up winning that race by a couple hundredths of a second. We set the world record, beat China by those couple hundredths. We get to the end of the games, we ended up beating China in the gold medal count by 1 medal. And so that was a race that could have, that really could have flipped the script. And as a Team USA, that's something that we care a lot about. And so, so I think that's a really cool one because of like the magnitude of what it meant for the overall team and like, the kind of the bounce back from, honestly, probably the most disappointing result in my career So being able to come back from that was pretty awesome.
It's a huge mental hurdle, man. I can't even imagine. and kudos to you for being able to do that and having the mental strength, I guess, to be able to pull that off. I'm curious, just given that the timing here, right? Like we're in the middle of the Winter Olympics. It's literally just been, on in my house all day, every day. Like my wife was a junior Olympian in slalom. So we have a ton of folks that are kind of in the Winter Olympics, side of the universe. Like if you switched seasons, like what would be your winter sport?
I'm so bad at all of these winter sports. I'm terrible at ice skating. So I grew up in Florida, so it's not like I was like going to the mountains very often. I've had one experience trying to ski, and learning to ski at like over 200 pounds, falling from that height and with that weight is a little different than like the 4-year-olds that were also on the magic carpet falling down. The talent is probably not there on the Olympic side. I think the alpine and slalom is probably the most relatable to me. It's kind of like sustained speed over a minute or two. So those ones are cool. Yeah, I mean, I was like the fun ones. Like I always love watching like the half pipe and slopestyle and all those. Yeah, but it's cool to see like the national pride. Like the Olympics is a great unifier, and so it just makes you proud to see people getting after it, going for their dreams.
Totally, it's been so fun to watch. Well, we want to change gears here a little bit. We're going to keep talking about the parallels between like what we've just talked about, your professional sports career, and now what you're doing in sourcing and investing. But maybe just as like a segue into investing, I'd love to hear like how you came to make that decision. And, I think I've heard you talk about you treated yourself as a business, like with sponsorships and partnerships, and you did some investing on your own and had some success. But when did the time come where you sat down and decided what you were going to do after swimming?
So first I went through the business school at Cal. And so that business school, just the dynamics of being in the Bay Area, that business school is very focused on entrepreneurship and, trying to give people the tools to go create their own startup and businesses. And so you had like almost a built-in network from the Cal experience. But I'd say like when I started to really think of it as a real possibility and start trying to like take the steps to prepare was after the 2021 Olympics. So I graduated 2017 and like those first couple of years was really trying to learn like the business of sport and like making sure that I was doing all of the right things, as an athlete, as a brand, to attract sponsors, do things at a high level, create a solid following and level of influence. Kind of after the 2021 Olympics, shifted the focus a little bit to now expanding the network. And I think like at its purest form, like the initial thought was like, look, like if I'm going to be entering the workforce at age 29, so turned 29 in 2024. So if I was going to be entering the workforce at age 29, I didn't want to make the wrong decision. I kind of just wanted to like understand, okay, what do these different career options look like? And, where are my talents best suited? And ultimately try to just plug into the right spot to start my career. In those 3 years between 21 and 24, had like 300 different meetings with entrepreneurs and investors. That largely was coming from, it kind of started with like the Cal Athletics Network, kind of expanded into the Haas Business School network, did the same thing with the Olympic Committee and USA Swimming. And so ended up meeting some really, really impressive people and people that, that gave me great advice. And so, some of the advice I had heard, like as I was kind of dialing in that the investing side, it was probably more of the interest to start. Then it was figuring out which stage. And so, the people that were doing some early stage investing, they were like, look, like you kind of just have to get started, like start finding some companies, placing some investments and see how it goes. Like no one's going to know how much money you put into these. And like all it's going to show is that you actually find deals and close. And so, that's kind of how it started. Ultimately, like 2 of those deals have done well. One turned into Whoop, and so we'll see how that goes. And then another sold pretty quickly for a pretty nice price. So like 2 out of the 7, have already transacted. So it turned out nice. Like I could say very humbly, like I didn't really know what I was doing. I was kind of just like backing people. But ultimately, like through those conversations, learned that I wanted to probably dial in more on like the growth equity side or early stage private equity. And so then like refine that list of 300, ended up kind of going to a few that, that I developed good relationships with, and kind of was like, all right, like, yeah, now I'm in a position where like, I want to make this a little bit more serious. Like, where are the opportunities here? How can I slot in? And ultimately that led to an opportunity with Norwest. So I've been there for, I guess, I'm looking at the date, like a year. Yeah. So it's been a great opportunity to get into the door there, learn from really talented people around me. Yeah, and I feel like it's a great opportunity to start my career there.
Congrats on it, man, and the first year being into it. You've always come across to me as a really, thoughtful and pensive guy. Did the networking thing come naturally to you, or like, I don't know, did you have sourcing in mind as your entry point, or like were you exploring a few different paths as you were honing in on like the different roles within private equity and growth equity?
I think the networking honestly does come pretty naturally to me. Like, I think I'm pretty interested in people. Like, I think of myself as pretty calm, and I'm not like nervous in conversation. So, I think that's the biggest thing is like, it's not taking me a long time to like warm up in conversations. I think what I found in those couple of years of actively reaching out to people, I kind of got to a point where I was like, the real benefit of the Olympics is that people are more likely to respond to outreach. So I think as an Olympic athlete, like you have kind of like the short term gain is like building the brand, doing well on social media, attracting sponsors. The long-term opportunity is you could use the Olympic platform. You have interesting stories. Like people are more willing to talk to you and help you out. And so as I was kind of interviewing, like it almost came naturally in that interviewing process of like, as people were asking, like, where do you want to slot in? Like, and I was kind of thinking, well, if I'm being like completely honest, like where I think I have a competitive advantage is on the outreach side. Like I think that I can get people to reply to me, probably better than most, given the unique background. And so I kind of flipped the question back is like, so would you prefer for me to just lean into that and like, and from there, like, as I start having more conversations, like that's going to refine the investor mindset and, over time can impact the life cycle of the deal. And so that's ultimately the way that I've gone. And I think it's been a really nice opportunity to put those skills to the test and talk to really interesting people. And I feel like my job is to be a sponge, just learn as much as I can, be like actually interested in people, and good things will happen.
So you're about a year into sourcing. First off, can you explain like how you're spending your time? Which sectors, what types of companies, and like I think we want to get into like the learning curve. How it's gone, and what are some of the the difficult things that you've encountered in just the 12 months that you've been doing it.
I can float across teams, but like the majority of my time is spent with the growth products and services team on Norwest's growth equity practice. So that spans across a lot of different industries. So it could be anything from business services to multi-unit, health and wellness, to beauty. Those are all places where Norwest has spent time. I'm learning a lot about a lot of different industries. Naturally, given my background, I've also spent time in sports. So that's anything from more of like the youth sports roll-ups to software, data analytics, brand agencies, like all of it. So very broad scope. Some of the biggest learnings, and I think the learning curve is like, there's so many companies out there. So like you really have to scorch the earth to go find the great opportunities, because we are ultimately looking for proprietary opportunities and this revenue and EBITDA range. So trying to make sure that we're seeing all of those is, it's definitely a fun challenge.
How hard was it to go from knowing exactly where you rank in the world and, like to being kind of back at the bottom in a new craft, right? Like, did you feel like you had any identity conflict going from, Ryan Murphy, Olympic gold medalist, U.S. team captain, world record holder, to like Ryan Murphy, first year sourcing associate?
Yeah, totally. But I get it. It's like, I know what I'm getting into, and so like my thing, and I think where sport helps a lot is like you definitely have to have a long-term point of view in sport. I'm constantly asking questions of like, okay, how is my process? Am I doing the right things day to day to ultimately find good opportunities? And if the feedback I'm getting is like, yes. And so then it's like, okay, good. Like I just need to get the reps. I'm a big believer in the 10,000 hour rule. There's no substitute for doing it, getting reps and getting your hands dirty. And I'm a big believer too that the greatest indicator of long-term success is consistency over time. And so, that's definitely my point of view. It's like my goal is to just be consistent, put in hard work, and over time the improvement's gonna be there.
Did you feel the pressure to be great immediately, like when you jumped into this?
Definitely internal pressure. Like I'm so competitive, and so it's just like it's so natural for me to strive to be the best. I also have to be realistic. Like there are people who are true professionals at this. They've been doing it for 15, 20, 25 years. And so, really like my goal is to learn as much as I can from them. And so, having a level of humility, constantly asking for feedback, and honestly going into the mindset that was pretty similar to the approach that I went into the 2016 Olympics with, was like, who are the people in the building that I can learn from, and what skills do they have that I could try to replicate? And so, trying to assess the team and what makes each individual person a talented investor, a talented sourcer are things that I'm constantly doing.
Like, just curious, who do you look up to most in private equity and deal sourcing?
Yeah. I mean, I think it ultimately is going to be the people that I'm around the most. I think within Norwest, I obviously look at my boss, Mary Miller, as someone who does it really well. And I like her style a lot, like the way that she engages with people. Like it is very much like people first. And that's the way that she approaches it. It's a very optimistic point of view. Like she's always asking people about their lives and always has like a couple of things that she knows about them that she can turn to. It is a relationships business. Like if people like you more, like they're going to be more excited to get on the phone with you. They're going to think about you earlier in these processes. And so it's super important to go about it that way. But there's plenty of talented people in the building and it all ultimately is coming from relationships. And so I kind of take that. It's like, oh yeah, I've got to build out the network in a couple of different ways. Like, for some people that have come from other firms and they come over to Norwest and they have a lot of success, they're still in touch with their previous coworkers. And so there's great information share between them, and that leads to opportunities. And so building out that peer network is really important. Building out the kind of the advisor network is really important. Building out the banker network is really important as well. And so those are all different strategies that I've seen people pull from.
It's funny, right? Like we get so deep into this world and we spend time on, term sheets and valuation and making sure we have all the perfect pitch and all this stuff. But it's like at the end of the day, people do deals with people they like, right? Like I'm not saying that's the only reason, but it's definitely you got to start with that human element and that trust building element, right?
Yeah. My job is helping the team get access to opportunities. And so, especially at that stage, I think the relationships matter just so much. It's hugely important. And I do totally agree. It's so easy to just get locked into, okay, we need to see this number to pre-qualify an opportunity, and it's easy to just kind of rush to those questions and, to really just be so efficient in the day. But at the end of the day, you have to enjoy it. And I think relationships is also what helps me enjoy the job.
What was your most humbling moment in sourcing over the last year so far?
I've gotten the people that think I'm like a robot. They're like, I get the response, opt out, please. And I'm like, well, if I would have put the button on there, he told you to unsubscribe or let you have that option if that was me. But
this was automated spam. I there's no opt out here. Yeah. I just sent you a one-off email,
Yeah. So I think stuff like that's I think it's pretty funny. I'm just all right, I totally get it. I mean, we're looking for our ideal profile of a company as like a profitable, bootstrapped, growing company. You're not going to be able to sell all of them on the benefits of capital. So you totally get that comes with the territory. So I think that's pretty humbling. It's not like that humbling, but it's pretty funny to get those types of responses.
It happens so consistently too. So you kind of have to develop that thick skin, right? You said your job is to kind of open up doors and to get these conversations started. And you also said, these are profitable bootstrap businesses like that have a lot of attention from a lot of different suitors if they even choose to go that route. So it brings up just this idea that comes up a ton on this show is breaking through the noise, like how you do that. I'm curious, like you entered into this space just a year ago, and how have you approached building credibility, like without having a background in investing, outside of the kind of personal investments that you did?
Yeah. No, I think it's a great question, and it's so much of the way that I approach this is I'm really hyping up the credibility of the people on the team. I'm frequently like being self-deprecating on calls and honestly just saying like, look, like if I'm getting into more of like a sales mode, I'm like, I can't wait for you to meet our general partner or managing partner or principal, whoever. Like they're so talented. They have so much experience in this space, like X, Y, Z. And so I use the team as the way to build credibility. And then I think in terms of the way that I build, like, I guess like personal credibility is you kind of just explain the background. Like I'm so much trying to find the unique connection point on calls. And so I'll throw out the whole background. It's like, yeah, have the Olympic swimming background. Like these are some advisory boards that I've been on. Those are mostly related to Cal and some swimming. I opened a swim school, so I'm a franchisee for a swim school. We own the building, so I'm a facility owner. So like that kind of, I can kind of find connection points across a range of industries given the background. You're trying to just find the best ways to support. Like ultimately, I want to get to a second conversation if it's an interesting company, and I think offering up support, whether that's opening up the network or findings we've had from talking to similar companies, like we can kind of pull on all of these conversations as like as the market research, or you could provide some added value pretty quickly.
Well, I'm curious, what about your achievements in swimming and like in your past experience? How do you lean into that? Like when you're trying to open doors and get people to respond to you, is that something that you utilize?
Oh yeah, of course. Like in cold outreach, it's kind of like, how can I break through the noise? And it's like in my day-to-day life, it's not like I'm introducing myself as like, hey, I'm Brian, I'm a 9-time Olympic medalist. Like that's not how I operate. But
well, I think Dan and I are in the same camp. We would be fitting it into subject lines, walking around conferences with the gold medals on our neck, trying to...
Would you really, Rudy?
I don't know, but it feels that way from the outside looking in. But Ryan's a humble guy.
I'll try to find best fit for subject line. So it's like the Olympic medalist is in there, connections across like sporting federations is another, facility owner, franchisee. Like I'm throwing all those out there. I think a unique subject line is actually such an overlooked part of the job. Like I'm trying to put a personalized subject line on every email. If you're getting blasted with a bunch of investors, like you need to stick out like from the jump. And so, yeah, I think a unique subject line is something I think about a lot.
I'm curious, do you feel like, given your experience, obviously being at the most elite and highest levels in sports, like, do you have the ability to really identify elite performance psychology, right? Like, do you look at a founder and you're like, you can detect the competitive fire and you can tell like quickly like that they've got what it takes to kind of make it?
I think definitely. 100%. There is a wide range, of mindsets. I think like at the end of the day, like the consistent thing, across industries that I think leads to success is like, in order to actually do hard work, like over a long period of time, you actually really have to love it. And so like, that's the first thing is like, do they really enjoy this? Two, like, do I think they have like the baseline level of talent to be successful here? Are they willing to like really put themselves out there Those are all things I'm immediately looking at. And then you're kind of moving into like as a leader. I think in sports, coaches are incredible leaders. Like they're able to get a group of people moving together towards a common goal. Like the Olympics is an all-star team. We don't train together. Like we're not training in the same spot. Like Cal put 6 guys on the Olympic team in 2016. We had the largest group of any club team. But then once you're there, it's like, okay, how do we make this group of 20, 24 people one unit? So coaches are really good at building culture. And so you're kind of looking for those leadership traits. Do they have a level of magnetism to attract really, really incredible people? Do they have self-awareness? Do they understand where their blind spots are? Are they honest about it? How do they fill out a team to help combat some of those things? Like those are all things that I think naturally I end up like assessing to a level on the first call.
So you kind of consider all of that as like part of your understanding, like, is this a good investment, like worth us having additional conversation with the business owner? Totally.
Our style of investing too, like we can do it, but like we're not typically doing like, a buyout. Like we typically want to invest, up to a 70% ownership stake. We want to see meaningful role from the team, and we're trying to back operators and founders. So, and we like being there for their second bite of the apple, and so we do really assess the team and the operator, the founder, the CEO as a big part of the process.
How much of your time do you think is split between selling and kind of screening an opportunity, right? Like when you're in front of somebody, I always feel like you have to do that dance, right? Where it's like half trying to get them interested in us and like half trying to figure out if they're truly interesting. Like, have you ever broken that down mentally in terms of how much time you spend doing each one?
I can't say I've actually put a ton of thought into it. I think like naturally how it ends up playing out is like, if you take like a 30-minute call, like those first couple minutes is like small talk, like figuring out where they live, like if they have a family, like any sort of things I could have gathered from any call prep, then kind of like introducing my background in Northwest, asking them to do the same if there's anything that comes up in there that's like unique. And then ultimately, as we get into the business, like learning about the product or the service, like, then we obviously have like industries that we really like. And so I kind of know going in, like if it's an industry we really like I'm going to be more likely to try to get into that conversation a little bit faster to ultimately get to the questions about like the scale of the business and interest in capital or any ways that we can support. And then, if it ultimately kind of checks all the boxes, then I move into selling the team.
So you're in a really unique spot, right? Like not only do you have the elite, professional sports background, but you actually own and operate a business, right? Like how'd you get involved in owning a swim school franchise?
After the 2016 Olympics, I leaned into the mindset of like, it's to whom much is given, much is expected. And so was really looking into causes that spoke to me and ultimately, did a lot of research and realized like learning to swim and drowning it's an epidemic in the country. So drowning is the leading cause of unintentional death for children aged 1 to 4.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's wild. I think it's something like 40% of the US population doesn't know how to swim. And
is that right?
Parents don't know. Yeah, it's wild. And growing up in a state like Florida, there's water everywhere. So I became an ambassador to the USA Swimming Foundation. Their mission is to increase access to the sport with a focus on underserved communities. So started there, ultimately through that, got involved with Goldfish Swim School. And so I've been a partner with them since 2019. And then as we were kind of going on these media tours, it really just spread awareness, like started to learn more about the business, like what are the things that they're looking for when they're finding a location, what ultimately is like the economics of owning a franchise. Then I was like, okay, like I'd love to do this. And so went through the whole process, took a long time to find the right parcel of land, ultimately found that, built the building and opened in October of 2024. It's an awesome business. Like the business does well. but it's a mission-based business at the end of the day. And so you feel good because you're making an impact. And I think, a really special moment for me is, I was at the location over Thanksgiving, and one of the parents came up to me. His son is probably 2. He's got like 3 really cute boys. I think he's like 2, 4, and 5. So he was like, over Thanksgiving, the 2-year-old fell into the pool, like fully clothed, fell into the pool. He was like, I was right there. So like, there was no like cause for alarm, but he was like, I hesitated. Like I wasn't jumping in the pool right away. I wanted to see what my son did. And immediately after falling into the pool, the son turned around and grabbed the wall, which that's the way we start off every single swim lesson at Goldfish. And so, in that moment, you're like, okay, this is a really impactful business. Like, obviously this is a very serious problem. Like, we are a very fun business, but like, you're making a really solid impact on, people's safety and comfortability in the water.
It's so huge, right? Like I've got a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, and we've had them both do swim school since, like before they could walk, right? We kind of like had them in the water, and it's so impactful. I was, as you're saying that, I'm thinking about the little jingles. It's like, if I fall, I go back to the wall, right? And like, they just like literally jump in, and like, that's the first thing you're teaching them, right?
Yeah. So we've got my daughter just turned 1. So we have her in there getting the early reps, and yeah, she loves it. She loves like popping around in there. One of her first words is bubbles. And that's like that's the Goldfish mascot. So every time she has bath time, we've got like the little bubbles floaty in there. Yeah, it's a great model. Like the McQuistons have done an awesome job with setting up that curriculum and really make it a great experience for the franchisees.
I wonder if your experience as an operator, business owner, like if you utilize that, or if that translates into what you're doing as a sourcing professional, maybe even more so than, my idea to put the medals around your neck, and let people know of your past success. But have you found that like as useful in your interactions in the seat?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, like we look a lot at multi-unit concepts, and, we haven't done as much like direct franchisee investing, but it's not something that we shy away from. So, especially in those conversations, it's, that's a really easy connection point. And so that could be anything from like the multi-unit fitness concepts. There's some overlap there. Obviously, youth enrichment concepts. There's a lot of overlap with those businesses, and so it's nice to be able to speak the language, have personal experiences that I'm able to draw from. Because I think that ultimately just it enhances the personability of me, and it enhances the conversation, as you have real experiences.
Is it fair to ask you this now? Like, are you going to be in the pool in LA in 28? Like, or like what has to be true for you to chase LA in 28? Right
now it's kind of like a trial period. So I've been getting back in the water. I've been training a few days a week. This summer is basically like, do I get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm confident I could go be impactful to the podium in 2028. Like that's where my mindset's at. So I'm honestly just waking up early, doing long workouts before clocking in and doing this job. So I'm managing a lot, but I think it's fun to have optionality. I think having the diverse background is, I think part of what is helping me to be good at this job. And so, having multiple things on my plate is something that I like.
Is it scarier to like not go for it, or or is it scarier to like go for it and fall short? Like, I don't know. How do you think through that decision?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think about just excitement in the next 2.5 years. Like what's going to make me the most excited? Is it kind of like chasing multiple careers at once, or just chasing the growth equity career? So that's kind of the way that I'm thinking about it. Like, there's no deep-seated feeling of like, oh, I have to go achieve this in the pool. Like, I feel good about everything I've done in the pool. It's really like, do I really want to like put in the work to try to have a moment on U.S. soil? Because that's a pretty unique experience. But that's the appeal, is the U.S. soil, domestic Olympics. If it wasn't a U.S., I don't necessarily know that this would be like much of a consideration.
We'll be excited to follow along. Yeah, as you kind of describe it, like managing multiple serious commitments at once. Like, do you feel like it's possible? Yeah, I imagine that most of our listeners are like, how do I manage a highly demanding career and a family at the same time, but you're going to throw in training for an Olympics. I guess you haven't done that exactly, those three things at once. Do you feel like you can make it work?
I'm still working on the balance part, but like there's things you can do. Like I was just reading an article about Eileen Gu today, and I think she said it pretty well, because she has a pretty absurd background too. Like she's winning medals at the Olympics. She's a student at Stanford, and then she's like a runway model. The way that she said it is like, look, when I'm in the classroom, my body is recovering. When I'm on the slopes, my mind is recovering. That's kind of a similar way that I'm thinking about it, is like, yeah, sure. Like I'm sitting here and I'm like very sore. It's like I was like in the weight room, lifted pretty hard yesterday, and so I'm sore. But like, that's not affecting like my words per minute in terms of like typing, or like my ability to converse with people and and understand if they have an interesting business that the Norwest would like. So I think there's an ability for the body to recover while I'm working. I think the nice part about swimming is like your phone's away, and so it's nice for me to be able to get away from the career too, and spend some time putting the body in some pain.
Yeah, it's interesting as you talk about it, just kind of seeing and hearing like almost the synergies of it, right? Like the opportunities to rest your mind here, like while your body's working, or vice versa. One question I wanted to get into for you here is that we've got a lot of listeners that are deep in their career, but we have a lot that are also kind of early or thinking about it or exploring like what is private equity, business development, all this sort of stuff. For somebody who's listening and thinking about maybe making a big career pivot, could be from sports, military, entrepreneurship, like something totally different. What's the first thing that you'd tell them to get right, or like what approach would you recommend?
Yeah, I think being pretty thorough as you do the research is really important. So, like I ultimately learned the most through conversation. So like I went the route of talking to a lot of people, hearing their stories as a way to help me identify what I want to do. I think you could do it in some different ways, especially now, like there's so many podcasts, but doing the research about the industry is super important. And then I think finding a couple of people that you can turn to, like as you get into it, you have those growing pains, a couple of people that are going to be patient with you and answer the questions that, you might feel embarrassed to ask other people. So those are kind of the two categories that I've leaned on a lot.
Great. Hey, Ryan, as we wrap up here, I wanted to spend a little bit of time just asking you like some general fitness and health questions, if that's all right. Yeah, I know that like water is something that you've said in the past is like important to you, making sure you're drinking like clean water. But I wonder if I had to get you to
2 water bottles.
There we go. Nice. Glad you're staying hydrated on the podcast. But if I had to ask you to nail it down to maybe like one tip, it doesn't have to be a hack, or one thing that you think is really important for general well-being.
Oh, sleep. If I slept for 10 hours a night for 5 days in a row, am I waking up in a bad mood on day 6? Never. I think about it in terms of that, but it's so easy to just you get an eye mask, you get earplugs, and your sleep quality is immediately going to improve.
Optimize for sleep. Was that like when you were in your training for each Olympics, was that kind of the number one like variable that you were paying the most attention to?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's the easiest. Like that's the best. It's the best performance enhancer there is. And so, yeah, in an Olympic year, I'm trying to get 9 hours. I mean, I have like the 8 Sleep mattress. That's an awesome device. I love that thing. Yeah. I'm not sponsored by them. I'm just paid post. I'm just saying, like it's a great product. Yeah. So I think optimizing the sleep environment's huge.
I mean, I forget who was it that said it's like the highest performance enhancing thing that's legal, right? Is sleep.
Totally.
All the bad behavior stems from poor sleep, it seems like, and it makes you slack on nutrition and, everything else you're trying to do that's good for you. So that's a good one. I really want to thank you, Ryan, for joining us. It's been an awesome conversation. Thanks for coming on and spending time with us. We really appreciate it. And hey, we'll be cheering you on as you head towards 2028 or whatever comes next. So thanks again.
I love it. Great talking with you both, and really appreciate you having me on.